they are making the hardest decision. Am I going to go home with my wife or my husband or my family, or is the person with the gun going to go home? I'm saying the police officer deserves to go home.
My name is Kevin Farmer, and I'm actually one of the candidates, official candidates that's on the ballot for the November 4th election. Registered Republican too, by the way. So, but all jokes aside, Ms. Sarah said something that was very deep, that we need politicians like watchdogs, because technically, if I'm elected, anybody in Cincinnati is my boss. You're my boss. I will be working for you. So what I'm implementing, what I'm saying, what I'm understanding is there's no oversight when it comes down to the responsibility of your employee. So what I want to implement is the third shift policy. I want to be able to work 11 to 7 to see what is going on with our police, our fire, and engineers, because we know that after 2 p.m., that's when crime starts, don't it? You see, the transparency is you can't find your employee until election time. And I'm not willing to be here just on election time. I'm willing to be here all the time. Because my thing is open transparency means I have to suit up with a body cam too. I have to be like Kai Cenat, right? Kai Cenat, you get to see it all the time. You get to stream it. You get to have access to me, because at the end, you will be able to see what I see. Because when I'm doing the work, I got another 8 might not be working. We need that watchdog, Miss Sarah. I need to tell my bosses, they ain't working as hard. What we gonna do? I'm willing to let them know that the employee ain't coming to work, ain't doing their job. They don't want to work 11 to 7. Who's worked third shift up here? People work third shift. I know that graveyard shift. You love it or you hate it. But my thing is, right now, till the problem has solved itself, that's what I'm willing to implement as city council member Kevin Farmer, a third shift policy until we solve this problem with our crime.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you. We'll go there. We got questions up. Why don't you go back there, right? Go right there, and then we'll come over here. We'll bring it over here to you, sir, after that.
Hello, my name is Rosemary Oglesby Henry. I am the CEO and founder of a local nonprofit, Rosemary's Babies Company, that provides support for teen parents and families in greater Cincinnati. This week, over the last couple of weeks, while we were dealing with so much violence in greater Cincinnati, one of my young parents' children was run over by a car. 3 children under the age of 5. One of those children won't be able to walk. Then, in my program, I decided to talk to our young parents, and I asked those young parents, how many of them have a friend or know somebody that was a teen that was shot and killed? Every one of those parents said yes. In fact, my own son, that I never exposed to any violence because I believed in the American dream and I tried to pull them up out of there, this year has seen more than a dozen of his friends within that same victim system. And so what it led me to ask, especially when this young father, he's 16 and he's so bright and he's so fun. And when I asked all my teens, did they have a gun? Several of them did. And when I asked them why, they said that they did not feel protected. And I have a problem with that, because you come from a 2-parent home and you live in a nice area and we have the police. But what I'm trying to figure out is, why do they feel that they need to protect themselves because they get a threat on Facebook? And the automatic is, where I used to fight, I grew up in Avenue, y'all. Now, when somebody threatens them, they're fearful that they're gonna take their lives. And so my question for the kids that I talk to within my organization, that I not only preach to protect your children and protect your person and protect your babies, but I also teach about causes and consequences. So if you do pull that gun, to protect yourself, you might end up doing life and you lose the chance to see your baby grow up and they end up in the same cycle as you. So we need to do more of that. But my question is also this: how do we retrain families, the media, government, and even our leaders to start speaking positive life instead of fueling violence and fueling hate, so that these kids feel the need to protect themselves and go get a gun? That's my problem.
Thank you for sharing that heart-rending account of what one family's kids being run over by a car. When you roll that log over now, you see what crawls out. What crawls out of that isn't pretty. And so what's really going on in the country, and I don't want to move us too far past just what's in front of us here in Cincinnati, but what we see in Cincinnati is a microcosm of a deeper problem that you put your finger on, is that we are going through a kind of identity crisis. Right? We've lost our way. It's a spiritual crisis. It's a crisis of meaning. Or, what's our country? You look at your iPhone, do what it tells you to do on a given day, live your life going through the motions, programmed by the algorithms that actually cause our brain to rot and stop us from being able to think independently, commit acts of violence, live in a culture of fear, a mental health epidemic that's raging like wildfire with addiction, fentanyl usage, opioid addiction on the rise. Yeah, there's a deep epidemic. It's a cultural epidemic of fear, of a mental health epidemic, of a loss of spiritual purpose and meaning that we got to bring back. And everything else we're talking about, I believe with you, is a symptom of that deeper void. And to our friends on the left, I will say, for a while they had a prescription for what fills that. It's a kind of victimhood culture. Race, gender, sexuality, climate. Maybe it's not my fault, it's not my responsibility, it's what somebody else did to me, and then what is somebody else going to do to fix it? To your question, there's a different answer to that question. It isn't what you expect somebody else to do, it's what we expect all of us to do. Not just some elected official in this deeper sense for our culture. We've got to fill that spiritual void, that moral void, with the real thing. Individual, family, nation, and God beats race, gender, sexuality, and climate if we have the courage to stand for what's right, for what's true, to bring back the self-confidence in our young people, to get the cell phones out of the classroom, to be able to actually, at a young age, I mean, some people might say this is unrelated. What's he talking about? Make sure kids show up to school. Say the Pledge of Allegiance every morning with a moment of silence to be able to go along with it, to ground ourselves in our actual sense of purpose and identity and who we are, to restore the family unit as the ultimate place of accountability, the best form of governance, better than any form of government known to the history of man. That's what we ultimately are going to have to do to get to the root cause of all of this. I think a revival of faith, or at least belief in something higher in our country, is a good thing that we shouldn't hide from. Fills that spiritual vacuum. But in the meantime, that's going to be it's a long project, and we're not giving up on it just because it's a long project. But it's like what I said to the woman's question earlier, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We're going to work on that for the long run while scoring the easy wins that are sitting in front of our eyes for the short run either. That can't be a substitute for saying that we're going to put more cops on the street, for a substitute for saying we're actually going to empower them to be able to do their jobs, a substitute for judicial system reform that allows violent criminals to actually remain in prison rather than being released. So it's not either or, it's not one of these or the other. There's a deeper moral, spiritual crisis of purpose and meaning. We're going to have to fill that through true leadership, not the fake stuff that just tells people what they're looking to hear. We're not victims, we're victors, right? That's who we are at our core. But that's part of what we're going to have as a cultural reawakening in our country, starting with our state. We're going to work on that in parallel with fixing the common sense reforms that are actually going to at least prevent those preventable crimes from happening right here in Cincinnati. So thank you. I appreciate that question, all right? We'll come around to you, sir.
I'm Chuck Collins. I live in Madisonville. The $64,000 question. There's been a lot of pain shared here tonight. I will acknowledge there's women that share. It took guts to do that.